Hi everyone, and welcome to the first anniversary birthday edition of Rod Suskin's World. Amazingly, a whole year has gone by, and I have managed to do such exciting things in the last year to share with you. You know, at the beginning of 2016, I started as a little YouTube channel, and a few people were watching, and it didn't take long before I was here on Cape Town TV and talking to all of you, which is such a great privilege and such an exciting thing. And hopefully you joined me somewhere along that journey some months ago, more than 50 episodes ago, nearly 20 interviews ago, and so much interesting ground we have covered. So I thought before we launch into a whole new year of Rod Suskin's World, I'd catch you up on perhaps some of what you missed and some of what you might have loved that's happened in the last year. I started off the year, as I always do, with a look at the year ahead, and every month we've been having looks at the month ahead, and not only have your stars been fascinating, and I've received such great feedback from you, which is really much appreciated. I'm glad that it really helps you get some insights and some perspective in your life, and of course a little bit more information than we ever wanted to know about Jacob Zuma and his doings and Donald Trump and his doings as the year unfolded. We had some excitement this year as my predictions about the cabinet reshuffle appeared right on time, and keep watching, of course, every month where we have predictions for you and for the political situation, even some coming next week, and we live in exciting times, so don't miss those. But I've also got to talk about so many of my favorite subjects, as well as things that I know are important spiritual subjects that help so many people. I've got to talk about fear and about suffering, about the importance of discipline and the importance of free will. Many of these topics I've covered in the ongoing series about developing your spiritual life. We've had 7 great episodes of that over the course of the last few months, and there's many more to come, so be sure to keep watching on those topics. I even got to show you how to meditate and how to improve your luck, and even how to interpret your dreams. Lots of that had to do with all the interesting, great wisdom that I love sharing with you. So we also had an episode on the actual wisdom of the great masters, as opposed to so much of the new age hype that you are kind of encouraged to read and that you find online. But there really is so much more to everything. We spoke about karma, we spoke about reincarnation, we spoke about astrology, of course, at length and many times. And many of the interviews that I did were with interesting different astrologers who take a different approach to some of what you think about astrology. Recently, we had Nicholas Matz-Alsop, the fertility astrologer, telling us her remarkable techniques to help people fall pregnant. We had Alex Chenoweth in England. There I was on the Thames, and we spoke about the importance of astrology in education. And early in the year, I had Richard Fiddler, an astrologer with a fascinating knowledge of Vedic astrology and philosophy, and we had a great chat about how those things connect with our own astrology. And then, apart from astrologers, there were fascinating other people. Remember Kerry-Ann, the medicine woman who came from Australia. There was Daniel, who walked up the east coast of South Africa from Cape Town all the way to Mozambique. And there was, of course, recently Joanne Lefson and her remarkable painting pig Picasso. And there are so many interviews that we are still going to share over the year ahead. But I did want to have a closer look at some of the great insights that we learned from all the amazing people who have appeared on the show over the course of the last year. One of my most exciting guests, and someone about whom I still get a lot of feedback and comments on the YouTube channel, was the Sangoma Ntombitongo. He shared with us fascinating details about what goes into becoming and being a Sangoma, what it entails to be a Sangoma, as well as the thorny issue of white Sangomas and Sangomas in the modern world. Take a check.
You know, I always say when I hear people talk about Sangomas and say like they're witch doctors, I always say this: it's just a misunderstanding and a way of trying to find something to actually hold on it. Because as Izangoma before someone came with this witch doctor thing. So Isangoma is as I say earlier, like someone who's been called by the ancestors. So how could it be? It turned into something that is witchcraft. Is witchcraft.
Exactly.
We healers, we each and every person can become a sangoma if they are the chosen one.
If they get called, yeah.
Yes, not because they want to be.
So you mean anyone's ancestors might call them? They don't have to be African, Pondo.
They don't have to be Amampondo or Isixhosa.
Yeah.
Which is, I just want to be very clear about this part, because we're speaking about the very most important part of the most issue that is actually happening in South Africa. Now, as you say, like there's quite a number of white sangomas also. I think there is a misunderstanding a lot about this particular part, where because Amaxhosa and Amampondo and Amazulu and I mean all the black tribes, they are the ones who being still like us connected and being able to do these rituals for such a long time. Whereas the other cultures who were lost, as I believe, they were lost from their connection of their ancestors. Then it get lost that the fact is each and every person can be called by the ancestors. It doesn't matter which color, because everybody dies.
Right,
and when time out, which is my belief is that the white sangomas who go to the closest or to Amampondo is only because they see there is a light there.
Right.
These people are still very connected, strongly connected. It's not because they're there to buy culture or anything, which is so called nowadays. Because I keep hearing this thing that we're selling our culture. What does the white people know about the ancestors? This whole idea of culture, Ubungoma has nothing to do with that. Like, it's not a culture. It's a calling of the ancestors.
I love showcasing Cape Town and the amazing things that happen around here, and of course, importantly, the amazing people that we have in Cape Town, which make it such a great city. And one of the foremost amongst those for me is the phenomenal Cheryl Ozinski, once a manager of Cape Town tourism and now transforming Cape Town into one of the most amazing destinations for those who love and care about organic farming and local produce. And of course, I'm talking about her work as the creator and director of the Orania City Farm.
Right, so this is a community city farm where we grow about 112 varieties of fruit and vegetables. We grow
I didn't know if there were 112
there
varieties.
more. At the market we sell over 300 varieties.
Wow.
And it's not only the way forward for an affluent community. These neighborhood watches have been rolled out now in more disadvantaged communities around South Africa, and they are proving to be real crime fighters. But crime in itself and making a place safe is only the beginning of engaging a community. Once it's safe, there are many, many other ways that the community needs to be involved, and farming and growing food is one of them, because everyone loves to eat.
Of course.
And food is a unifier. It breaks down barriers and it brings people together like no other medium. So there are 5 people employed here and about 12 people employed at the market. There are 200 people at the market, traders whose livelihoods depend on the market. It's adding a lot of money to the economy of South Africa, but we want to work with more farmers. We want to start a culinary academy so that we can have food from farm to table. We want to work more with chefs, because really the chefs, they say initially that the restaurants were the heroes, then the chefs became the heroes.
Yes.
Now the ingredients are the heroes. And so we want chefs to really understand the power of fresh ingredients.
And also in Cape Town, of course, we've been suffering a terrible drought that has affected the Western Cape. And I was fascinated to speak to David Masterson, who is someone with a fascinating and rather different potential solution to the problem of rain in Cape Town. This interview caused a lot of interest. So I'm going to tell you again, if you want to contact David, remember to go to my Facebook page and comment there or look there for details on how to find him. This was fascinating stuff.
Access that. But really what it is, it's a 45-minute piece of music that goes out as an imprint, a frequency imprint out into the environment, and simply finds or resets resets the default setting. It's very powerful, and we found in a number of different incidences with trying people around the country that what I'm going to do is eventually, when we get a professional version of the project going, have a cornerstone and then simply mark out a GPS point every 30 kilometers or so based on a hypothesis of how much territory that sound can influence, and then just lay them out across the country. So it'll be a weather station, a professional weather station, because we lack so much professional weather collecting data in South Africa, driven by a solar system. That's very simple. I've got one at home. And then we've built a prototype, our third version of a prototype sound machine that is also driven by solar. And I'm saying we need to become more mature now. We've done so much damage, rape and plunder with our mining and our oil digging. But I think in future years, we're going to find more and more of a number of things coming to the fore. There's going to be so many new technologies that are going to come into existence, even within the next 10 years.
Monica Kromhout continues to forge the way forward in breaking down old prejudices and old laws about the use of psychedelics and psilocybin in particular as an important tool to people on spiritual journeys and self-exploration. Monica, another important and much loved figure in Cape Town, had so much to say I didn't even know how to make an extract for tonight, but watch this.
The future doesn't exist. We are creating it as we go along, in the now. That's what makes the now so important, and living in the moment, because we're making the future happen. But clearly I heard the voice, and the voice said, your home will become a school for mushrooms.
This was on that very first experience.
Now what's that? So I then went into this dialogue with this voice, which is quite puzzling, but I still was feeling the effect of mushrooms, which enabled me to continue with it. And I said, no, that can't happen. I don't know anything about mushrooms. So this voice says, very solemn, you don't need to know anything. All you need to do is open the door and hold it open. Well, what I really yearn for, which makes me feel it actually will happen because I've got this yearning, even though I don't understand it logically, is that mushrooms are freely available to everyone, that there is no controls, like nature made them. It's interesting that sacred mushrooms, this particular kind of mushroom, psilocybin mushrooms, grow all over the world. Every country has got its own variety. And that says this is a worldwide. Nature doesn't do something like that for nothing.
And while we're on the subject of amazing technologies, who could forget Dave Duarte, who was not only a fantastic guest who told us really interesting things about where the world is going with technology and what it really means for us, but we even got to explore some of that technology ourselves.
You see, it makes us more dependent.
Yes.
Absolutely. But, I mean, without doubt, stronger. I mean, it's, Steve Jobs tells this famous story about, the computer is the bicycle for the mind. And the reference there is that, a person walking with their own two legs isn't nearly as powerful as a person riding on a bicycle, a piece of equipment that's designed to make us more powerful. So, of course, you can choose if you want to go across the country to walk, if you want to. Then you're not dependent on any technology, but it's proven that you'll probably get there faster with an aeroplane. So we are dependent on those other types of technologies, and for me it makes no sense at all not to use technologies that are going to make our physical systems more robust just because we're scared of becoming dependent on them. As you pointed out, we at a current state where the way that we're engaging with energy is in very finite terms. We're literally pulling it up out of the ground, for example, and processing it in a way that's very expensive, but there are completely abundant and renewable forms all around us. The sunshine and the wind and the movement of the oceans is eternal, in human terms at least. And as we learn to harness that power, it will bring in a whole new era of abundance for us. One of my favorite quotes, I think it's William Gibson, he said, the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed yet. So
authors are my favorite people to interview. Not only have they got a lot to say and are usually quite good at saying it, but there's something that they're passionate about and they really know a lot of information about, and we always want to hear more about that. And first and foremost of those was Melinda Ferguson, author of 5 books and who achieved bestseller status with her stories of how she escaped from addiction and how life changed after that, as well as a few other amazing adventures she's had along the way.
I literally thought you're either going to die or you're going to live. And when I decided to get clean, I decided to live. And I knew it was going to be hard, and I just accepted the hardness of it. That self-will thing, which is often so rife in addiction. Self-will, just dominates all the time. So when one's kind of going, okay, there's something else, I need to actually surrender that. That was probably the key points, the key turning point for me, was when I felt like I wasn't that alone. I think a lot of people think that when you get clean, like life just starts getting better. It took a long time for me to just feel like I actually could breathe again. I mean, I was very depressed in my first year. I couldn't even read. I mean, my brain had been so shot. I was also a crack addict. Well, I was about a year clean. I wrote my first article for a magazine. I'd never written really before. And that piece of writing kind of in a sense saved my life, because 4 years later a publisher found that magazine in a dentist room and called me and said, I would like you to try and write a book about this. I love seeing people come alive and seeing tears come down their faces and truth being touched inside them, and just this empowerment of people walking in so terrified of my workshops, literally like shaking, and going out feeling like I'm going to go and write something when I get home. It's a beautiful feeling.
Another much loved Cape Townian and author that I got to speak to was Bernard Brom, an integrative medicine specialist, much sought after for his drug-free treatments, and also the author of a great new book on exactly what integrative medicine is about and the choices that are available to you as the consumer of medical services. Such important stuff and such an amazing read.
That I was giving people had serious side effects and were dangerous. And having been out of medicine for 6 years, coming back suddenly and deciding, can I actually ethically give a patient a drug which was a chemical, which was going to interfere with function? I mean, that's, if you listen to the names, antihistamines, beta blockers, when you become ill, the focus becomes on the matter disease. And you forget about the whole being that's still there, sitting, waiting to help. Where you put your mind, that's where focus goes. And the disease model is not working. So the problem today with the whole concept of health is that it's all disease focused, which is a mistake.
Yeah.
We're not going to get rid of disease
No.
by focusing on disease. For me, the whole concept of disease, I kept turning it around towards saying, well, this is a journey actually. It's not a disease that you're stuck with, it's a journey that you're on. And when you're on a journey, that's a different point of view, to carrying this disease around. The disease is not a problem. The disease is nothing more than a signpost on the journey of life. Whatever's happening is actually just part of the journey. And I need to find a way to respond rather than react. Because if I'm reacting, then I'm pushing. And I'm doing war with that part of myself. Whereas if I can learn to find a way to respond to it, that what's happening is not wrong. So I need to learn to dance with it rather than kick it out of the room, because that's not healing. So to find the way of healing, for me, illness is nothing more than helping us to discover ourselves.
Favorites. I have to say that my most exciting author interview this year was with Sylvia Vollenhoven, author of The Keeper of the Kum, a mind-blowing book not only about life growing up as a coloured woman in apartheid South Africa and post-apartheid South Africa, but also the importance of the Bushman ancestry and the connection that all of us should have with our ancestry. This is a book that I could read over and over again. I hope you've read it, and I hope if you haven't, this will remind you of why you want to read it.
Whether we like it or not, and whether we know it or not, we are chosen to be guardians of certain very important stories. And people who are chosen in this way by their ancestors all go through the same thing. The illness is common because the illness disconnects you from what you used to be, and that break, it's like you're breaking and remaking a person. And then the isolation is essential. You have to lose. You have to experience that thing of loss. So ultimately, we are just a collection of our stories. And so there are certain stories that come to us, and as Tabo, the character, the ancestor that I write about, says, stories that float to us on the wind. These are not stories that we necessarily pick up in books or read in archives, but these are things that people might call inspiration or creativity that push us and push us. Just in the 19th century, we were people with belief systems, with our own understanding of creation, and in a very short time stripped of everything, our beliefs, our history, our sense of identity, everything gone. But we have to understand what happened before so that we can get back some of those valuable things that we lost. And then we have to evaluate modern belief systems, whether it is religions like Christianity or whatever, or it's a political ideology. We have to re-evaluate everything, because I think as a nation we are on the brink of a very exciting future, but we need to throw out what we've been told. We really need to ditch a lot of the nonsense that we've been brought up with, and look at how we connect as a family, as a nation, and who we really are.
Sylvia was, of course, a runner-up for the Alan Paton Non-Fiction Award of the Sunday Times for that very book. Well, all those interviews aside, I also took you traveling, and I even managed, as I said, to get onto a boat on the Thames to do one of the interviews. But my favorite journey of all, and yours too, was to my other home in the Transkei to interview Chris and Tom Mhlophe Reid.
And that's what we did. And the big chief came down, and many of the elders, and the Kwele's older brother, who was one of the elders, he was here. And they officially handed the homestead over to me.
We came down, you mean that 2-hour climb down the ravine?
Yes. Well, for everybody here, that's completely normal. So to live this lifestyle and farm in the old way, where we plow with oxen, because you can't get a tractor down here or anything like that. And we hoe the garden by hand. They impressed and very pleased that white people are prepared to come and join in as part of the community and live here and make this a home. I treat people with medicines, and I train people. I've had, including the current ones, 22 trainees. Wow. That's a lot. You share that period of their life and afterwards with them, and it's a family that just carries on growing. Our line of Sangomas is renowned here in Ponderland, and each new trainee that comes in joins the family, and so they're coming faster than the old ones are departing. It's very much chop wood and carry water, because we need to do that to keep the homestead going, literally taking wood home to keep the home fires burning. And water and wood are part of everyday life, what we need just for the nuts and bolts of staying alive. And I'm surrounded by the most incredible chemists. The forests and swamps and grasslands around here are full of the hugest variety of different species of plants that we use as medicine. And for me, it just feels absolutely right to be living this close to nature. And as difficult as it is, for me it's just really, really worth it.
Original music for that episode was provided by Tombi Tongo. Well, what a journey that was. And like the journey we've taken on the show, through all sorts of interesting territories, amazing people, and uplifting experiences. And I really hope you'll join me over the course of the next year for more. Starting next week with the month ahead and the crazy political stuff that's happening. We've got great interviews lined up for you. You'll find all the old episodes on YouTube, on my channel there, or of course on Facebook on the page Rod Suskin's World. You can even check out the hot chocolate recipe and make it for yourself to wipe away these July freezes. And I look forward to being back next week to share the month ahead with you and start a whole new exciting year of Rod Suskin's World. Thanks for being here and see you there.